Hey, I'm Sean Anderson with Seanderson Tech. Welcome back to my channel. Let's get started. So today we're going to be talking about the Ansible inventory file. And the Ansible inventory file is a very simple thing, and I'm going to walk you guys exactly through how to create one. But essentially what it is a list of hosts that you're going to be automating with your Ansible device. And whether that's a bunch of DNS names or IP addresses, it doesn't really matter. It's going to be able to resolve either one. As long as you have DNS resolution within your environment, the DNS will work. And so I'll show you both ways and how both work. Now, a couple of key components as to why this is going to be really easy and why it's really efficient. One, you can set up groups for your hosts. So if you have a certain groups such as your database servers or your web servers or your application devices, you can group all those into different groups, and you can group different machines into multiple groups. The second key component to Ansible inventory files is you can set up variables within those inventory files. So if you have variables that are specific to certain groups or to specific machines, you can set that up to be host or group specific. And so that is a very nice feature about Ansible inventory files. And I'll show you how to do all those and how you can write this. It's typically written in .ini, but you can write it in Yaml as well. And I'll show you how to do both and a couple of examples on how to best use this in your environment. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention before I did dive into my own environment and show you guys what it looks like and detail some of the nuances of Ansible inventory files. There is a specific location as to where Ansible is going to look for that inventory file, the default location, but you can specify other locations. And generally what I like to do, for me, the best practice is to put my inventory file within the same folder as my playbook. So if I'm writing out a role or writing out an inventory file, I like to keep it in there, usually in a folder called inventory, and call my inventory file hosts. You can have multiple inventory files and have your inventory pointing to the inventory folder instead of specific files. So that's another nice feature, and we'll show you guys how to do all that in the configuration file later. So diving into my own environment, I'm going to show you guys what an Ansible inventory file is going to look like. And first I wanted to show you guys where you're going to find that location for where Ansible is going to pull it from. And so generally it's going to pull from a default location of the etc Ansible hosts file. In this case, it's going to actually be pulling from the ansible.config file that's located within the local folder. And I'll talk about the Ansible config file at a later date. But the way that this is going to look is in the Ansible configuration file, you can see that inventory is defined as inventory/hosts. And so that's within the local folder. So if I actually look at that file, so we're going to go ahead and look at the inventory host file. And you can see I have a couple of different groups here just to kind of give you an idea of what this is going to look like. So my first group is the Death Star servers group. I also have a Raspberry Pi group, and I have a fake web servers group because I don't actually have any web servers, but I wanted to show you guys a cool trick on what you could do with Ansible in the Ansible inventory file. So the first group, you can see I have a couple of hosts. I have my Death Star server, I have my Jedi and Sith servers, which are a couple of different servers within my environment. And the first one, Death Star, actually has a variable that's assigned to it. So you can see Ansible connection is local, and so I can define as many variables as I want that will be specific to this host. And you can have each of these hosts is grouped within my Death Star servers group. If I wanted to actually put one of these servers in the Raspberry Pi group, I could also do that, even though they're not actually Raspberry Pis. I could say that we're grouping it within the Raspberry Pi group. This is all possible. So the second one, the second thing I wanted to show you guys is this web servers group. And the web server group is just a list of IPs, and you could do this with any naming convention. If I wanted to do node dash 91 through 95. And so basically what this is going to do, it's saying that this group is comprised of node 91, node 92, node 93, node 94, and node 95. In this case, we're going to say the actual IP address, which doesn't exist. But if I wanted to make these servers and set them up, this would totally work. And so in this case, it's looking at the IP range of 91 through 95. So if we come back out here and we go and list the hosts that are inside that group, we're going to go Ansible -- list hosts all. It's going to give us a list of everything that's in that inventory file, regardless of which group it's in. If we were to say list different groups, say we want to list what's in the web servers group, that's going to give us just those 5 hosts that we mentioned before. If we want to list our Death Star servers, it's going to give us just those 3. And so you're able to see that these hosts are listed out into the different groups that they're supposed to be listed in. If we were to go back into the inventory file, so let's go back in. And let's say I want to list one of my servers in the Raspberry Pi group. We're going to go We're going to go ahead and list a couple of different groups out. We're going to list the Raspberry group out as well. And you can see that it lists just 4 hosts. Even though I had one of those hosts listed in multiple groups, it recognized that that host was in those 2 different groups and only lists it once. And so if you're trying to automate out different groups, Ansible is smart enough to recognize that you have hosts in multiple groups. As long as the naming convention is the same, it's going to be able to automate out both of those groups while only doing automation on each host one time. So the last thing I want to show you guys is how to write this same exact file in YAML instead of INI. I prefer INI because I feel like it's very simple and easy to write and read. But YAML is also a very viable option, and I've seen a lot of people use that as well. But for this case, I'm going to show you guys what that would look like. And so this is going to have the same exact inventory as the last. And so I wrote out this inventory file, and you can see I have a couple of different sections here. I could have any host in the all group, and so it actually shows me that the group is called all. I have hosts, which anything underneath here in this section, so if I wanted to go add a server into this, such as imaginary host, then I could do that, and it would be listed in my inventory later on. Now, I could also say, you can also see I have the Death Star servers group and any host inside of it, Death Star server. This is the same variable that I had assigned to it previously, so I assigned that here as well, Jedi, Sith, and then I have my Raspberry group. So anything under children are essentially groups. And I have my hosts, I have web servers, and I can also do nested groups in here as well. Now, the problem with doing this nested groups, a group within a group, or having multiple groups underneath another group in YAML is it makes the file look overly complicated and long. And so I'm not going to go ahead and I'm not going to demonstrate that here. It is in the Ansible documentation, but I will show you guys how to do it in the regular .ini file and how that would work out. So the way that it would work if it were in INI is going to be more or less like this. And so we're going to go ahead into our go into our inventory file here. And what you do is you would create a group such as home servers. I gave it a name, and you add the colon children on the very end of it. And so it's another group, but basically this children is going to say, hey, we can have servers such as Death Star servers and Raspberry, these groups up here, this one and this group. And it's going to take any of the hosts inside of those groups and list it inside of the home servers. And so to give an example of what this is going to look like, if we were to say parse this out and see what's inside of that group, we're going to do Ansible home servers -- list hosts, and it's going to give us Death Star, Jedi, Sith, and in the other group, Little Red. And you can see that you can have you can have groups grouped inside of your inventory file to help make that a little bit easier to break those down into smaller chunks and use those as building blocks in your inventory files. And that's it. Thank you again for watching this video about Ansible inventory files. If you have any other questions or want to see a little bit more about specific details on how the inventory files work, I can definitely show those. Just pop those questions down in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to do a follow-up video with more information later on. So please ask those questions, and as always, if you like the video, hit like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.